I know that most of you can't even imagine that there was a time where Angry Bill was Angry Bill. New Bill is nothing like that. But there was indeed a time when Angry Bill was an angry captain. When I was an angry captain responsible for quality assurance, working in a basement dungeon and rarely being allowed out in public, I found out that there are three main reasons for not complying with a directive. Don't know, can't, and won't. I'm Angry Bill, and this is Prehospital Wisdom. Let me explain my experience with getting several hundred Type A maniacs in remote work locations to toe the line. Non-compliance comes down to don't know how, can't, and won't. Someone doesn't know how to comply with a requirement, someone is being stopped from completing a requirement, and someone flat out won't comply with what's being asked of them. Let me explain. To know encompasses all of the times that an employee doesn't know something. When an employee doesn't know that something's required. When an employee doesn't know how to do something. When an employee doesn't know how to use a piece of equipment. When an employee doesn't know how to document what he or she did. Some people are just a wee tad hypocognitive and need to be reminded more than once, but even the non-hypocognitive ones can have trouble remembering all the requirements of our job. Most of the don't-knows are corrected in paramedic school. A medic learns how to run an arrest, intubate, start an IV, and that kind of crap. When they're hired into a job and an HR person goes over the other requirements, so they know how to wear the uniform, how to clock in, how to call in sick. Finally, a field training program of some sort covers a whole bunch of other don't-knows and corrects some of the stuff learned in school, if I'm being honest. After all of that, though, there are still requirements that change, new procedures and new equipment that has to be learned. Anytime something changes, drops, or is adopted, there's someone who is slow to get the proverbial memo. Hell, I can still occasionally think of morphine, bicarb in arrest, and MCL1 from time to time. It took me a year or so to remember to use aspirin when we first got it back in the day. Habit is a tough one. Continuing education is more important than we give it credit. The can't comply form of noncompliance occurs when an employee knows about a directive, but systemic, some other factor stands in the way. For example, you can have a standing order that says an employee must complete the PCR before leaving the ED, but if there's another call for them that dispatch is nagging about, the run sheet is probably not going to be left at the hospital. You have a requirement to collect a face sheet on every transport, but the receiving hospital says there's nobody to get you one. Sometimes it's hard or impossible to comply with demands. That's can't. Another good example of this is back when we adopted waveform capnography. Yes, I know I'm old and was already a supervisor when we added end tidal monitoring. Anyway, end tidal CO2 must be documented on all intubated patients. All employees were told about the new requirement. All employees were specifically told that if you don't have time to do end tidal CO2, you ain't got time to get the tube. But even allowing time for adoption, re-explaining the requirement, and pulling my hair out, there was still embarrassingly low compliance. The medical directors were beating me up about the street medics not doing it, and I had to roll that trouble downhill. Then one day, a medic finally explained to me, like I should have known about all along. See, the end tidal CO2 equipment was hidden away. Thus, it was a pain in the ass to get out and use when you had a patient sick enough to require a tube. The logistics group thought the sampling endotracheal caps were expensive, so they hid them away where they'd be harder to find. All it took was moving the equipment to the right airway cabinet for the compliance to shoot up. The medics wanted to comply, but there were systemic problems like ambulance design standing in their way. If an employee knows that something's required, knows how to do it, and there's nothing standing in their way, then all you are left with is that they won't comply. Employees that truly won't do what is asked of them in exchange for a paycheck shouldn't be employees for long. But most employees aren't actually willfully disobedient, so this is rare, and that's probably a topic for another time. One of my biggest flaws as a manager, and I freely admit there were many, was that I was habitually too quick to assume won't when don't know or can't actually explain what was going on. I'd like to apologize to everyone for that. I really am sorry, and I really do mean it. If you find yourself in a management position, please make sure to always look for the can't and the don't know first. One of the major roles of supervisors and managers is to get rid of the can'ts and don't know hows in the organization and allow good employees to be good employees. Allow good clinicians to be good clinicians. Allow the caregivers to give care. Anyway, thanks for watching. You know how YouTube works. Hit the like if you enjoyed this and hit subscribe if you really enjoyed it. Watch another video, go to a channel page, share, whatever it is you like doing. This is Angry Bill for Prehospital Wisdom. Until next time, comply!